Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Motive, Social Motivation for the Creative Class. I am your host, Tim Fulton, here with the founders of Hi Poké. Please welcome Nile Woodson and Mico Cordero. Woo! They like you. They really, really like you. I, however, am going to start on a more negative note. Mico, how old are you?
I just turned 25 last March.
And Nile?
26.
Young. Way too young. To
Baby
have experienced the success that you have with Hi Poké. First of all, Mico, tell us about how you got to Columbus.
Yeah, so I recently graduated from the University of Toledo about a year and a half ago, and I was in transition. Worked for a startup called Twine in Toledo. And I was in transition. I was about to move to San Francisco. And I met Nile through a leadership training. And I was like, Nile, what are you up to? And he's like, I'm opening up a restaurant. And my initial reaction was like, you're crazy. Like, what is it? You know, he's like, I'm serving Poké. And I'm like, what? Like, what's Poké? You know, and kind of just like was very intrigued in the concept. And I ultimately I moved here. Like, you know, Nile lived in the short north. He was like, you should totally do leadership training here for 4 months. You know, San Francisco is always going to be available after. And, you know, we'll live in the short north and just go from there.
So what was your inspiration to actually stay? Was it Nile's passion for this project? Was it some aspect of the city? Was it, I'm going to fuck around for a little bit before I go and start on my career?
Well, kind of like all of them.
Okay.
Well, you know, initially, like, I moved in and I was like, Nile, I'm going to support you in the business. And at this time, I knew Nile was going to go through a crowdfunding campaign process. And I was like, for me, I thought it would be really cool to be a part of that. And I was like, you know what, Nile, I'm just going to support like whatever you're creating, and I'll handle all the marketing side. And, you know, I've never chopped a jalapeno in my life till like 8 months ago. And, you know, I kind of just handled the marketing side and you know, after, you know, 3 months in the process, we did our first pop-up, and like Columbus Crave like did an article with like Nile and I's name on it, and like I was at home in Toledo, and
It feels good, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, it was really cool.
Yeah.
And I literally remember calling Nile, and I was like, when it published, and I was like, Nile, I think we have a baby. And that kind of just how it started. And
Yeah.
and
Nile, why don't you tell us a little bit about give us the elevator bio, like where you came from and why you're here.
Yeah, I'm from New York City, and I ended up moving here in 2010 to do an internship with Chris Hawker, who's here in the front row. He owns an invention development, product design firm, and I was a business major. So following him made a lot of sense, as like I knew I wanted to have my own business. I didn't know exactly what that was. So that got me here, and originally for 4 months, which then turned into a year, doing like social media and PR for his company. And in that year, I got really inspired to finish out college at OSU. Like the full-on campus experience with the sports, with the, you know, community, and something that New York City doesn't offer.
It's funny to me because so many people from here go to New York to have a college experience. But really, if you're a New Yorker and you have a New York college experience, you're just a New Yorker taking classes.
Exactly.
Like it's not any different for you.
No.
Whereas Ohio State, something that large and that sort of consuming of a university, you truly do get to have a college experience, and you got to have that.
For sure. Yeah, it's the one thing New York City
And it was
doesn't
great,
have.
right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
OH?
Like, I.O., baby.
Good. Just making sure.
Buckeyes.
Just making sure.
Yeah, so throughout OSU, I did a lot of things. I traveled. I ate a lot of food. I met a lot of awesome people. I went to LA quite a few times over my senior year, at which point I also worked at Rigsby's, which sort of developed my passion for service and understanding that like having a successful restaurant is more than just having good food. It's about the experience, it's about the community, it's about the people, and I developed my passion for that and finding out what does it take to, grow from just a good meal to an experience to a memory to like something you'll never forget.
And so, high Poké specifically, what was the inspiration for it?
I ate a lot of Poké in LA. I had eaten it as a kid, traveling to Hawaii, and like brought all these memories back. And it was something that Columbus didn't have. And it wasn't so far off base that Columbus wouldn't like accept it and embrace it. It was, when I moved here in 2010 from New York, I was like, what kind of fish and sushi is Columbus getting? Like, it's the Midwest, like, who knows? But
So-
actually, it's quite good.
And I don't
From
at
Lake
all
Erie.
I don't at all want to demean it. You certainly have a passion for it, having grown up experiencing it. But you identified a need and identified a market and are filling it currently.
Very, like, from the business side of, like, what doesn't exist here, what's within my means to do and do well. And Poké, it's all raw. It's a super simple product, and it didn't exist. So it was, like, filling the gap, as opposed to, like, the extremely good chef who can cook all sorts of things and then starts a restaurant because he can build a menu. Like, we actually still don't know how to build a menu. We just make really good poke, like, so we're like figuring
We
these
just
things out.
do this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. So talk about sort of have there been growing pains? I know that you guys, so you did a crowdfunding campaign. The crowdfunding campaign was actually meant for a brick and mortar store. You don't have a brick and mortar at this point. That money, I would like to assume, is sitting in a bank account somewhere.
Yes. Don't worry, people.
No, you can't see the statement, but yes, the money is in a bank somewhere. So what has it been like since you've been open? Like, what have you experienced growing pains, or have you experienced like, are you getting tired of it yet? Like, what does the growth look like?
It's super exciting, super fun. I mean, every day we wake up and there's some new opportunity and some new obstacle to overcome. So it's like keeps you on your feet. And we didn't intend to continue doing pop-ups. We actually started it as just like a marketing way, a way to connect with people.
Because you did it during the crowdfunding campaign,
Yeah,
right?
it grew from a need to connect with people who weren't just our friends and family for the crowdfunding video so that we could get support from them as well. So, that is how it started, and we grew really quickly. Like, our first night is still our busiest night, which doesn't even make sense, but it was crazy.
Wouldn't it be great to get back to it?
Yeah, right?
Right.
We're like, every day.
You're edging there. You're edging there.
But it took off faster than we anticipated, so there are a lot of, growing pains for sure. Like, we do a pop-up at Oddfellows. At one point in time, we were doing 3 different locations and coordinating, like, what gets to be everywhere. And, like, even tonight when we brought the food truck, we left without the cash box. And I got halfway here, and I was like, fuck.
Checklists.
We can't get money if we don't have the cash box, So things like this, like just we are growing really fast and we're stretching. We don't pretend to know anything. Like, we don't pretend to be like super professionals at this. We just figure it out and take feedback along the way.
Well, and you're trying. And I think
Yes.
that's the biggest thing, is you're not sort of stopping and saying, well, this is what we do. And you're not, and I know that you've changed over like how you're serving the food since you first started, because it wasn't really easy to eat. It looked good, but it wasn't really easy to eat. Any negative experiences or sort of things that you were surprised about?
So, like, again, like, speaking into what Nile was saying, like, we're not chefs in a way, but we knew that, feedback was really important for us in order for us to grow with Columbus. That was, like, the one big thing was, we knew we had a base, like, ingredients and the original gangster cups that we had, and at first when we started serving, we literally had feedback cards and we're like, here you go, like, rip it apart, like, this is just the base. And then,
Because you guys knew you had made it in your kitchen and it tasted good to you,
Yeah.
but you didn't truly know how somebody else was experiencing it.
Yeah, exactly. And, just for example, like, somebody mentioned you guys should add spicy mayo on your bowl, like 3 months in within the takeover, we're like, why didn't we think about that, you know? So like that was like really important for us to really take the feedback of our community, like, you know, and everything we've created so far, like from the brand all the way to the food, all the way to the experience, like, you know, like that we really like protect, and that really like that's really important for us.
And something that you mentioned before, I think that when, you know, Elizabeth gives feedback to something, says, I want to see spicy mayo, and then she comes back a couple weeks later and it's there, it makes that person sort of feel like they have ownership over what's happening.
Exactly.
And it makes them, frankly, that is the most loyal customer that you're going to have. How has the sort of reception in Columbus been? Positive, I would like to assume.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been incredible. Like, you know, the community that we've created that has been super supportive with the brand. I mean, you know, we can speak into Mama's in the building, and at first we thought like she would just she's gonna come in for us and we're gonna give her a hug, and now she comes and is like, no, forget the hug. I want the Poké. We love you. and yeah, it's been incredible. Like, you know, it's the wild, wild west here in Columbus, and, you know, we've created a team that, you know, will fully support us in what we're creating, and, you know, just being fully transparent to Columbus, and like here we are, you know, we just fresh off the press off of college, and, you know, this is what we're passionate about. Like, you know, this is what we're passionate. We're bringing it back to the community and like bringing something that's not been created here, and it's been amazing.
So the brick and mortar store is on the horizon at this point. Anything else you guys are planning, or anything that you're like, I wish we could do this, but something is standing in the way of it? That's a negative way of saying, like, what's next?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, what's next is the brick and mortar. And actually, this is only the second event that we've done in the food truck, so we still have like
How's the food truck going?
It's going really well.
You got to remember the cash box.
Yeah, got to remember the cash box. We got to get our processes and procedures down. But, you know, it's a great way to meet new people, to expand the presence of High Poké, it's a big-ass mobile billboard. At the end of the day, like, even if we don't sell a single bowl out of the truck and you see it on High Street, you're going to remember that.
Well, and in the end, I think that you need to sort of chalk up some of your gross sales to, or your lack of gross sales even, to we're making a sacrifice to have this out there.
Right.
So I think you guys have your head on straight. I'm still, you know, your age gets to me a little bit, but I think that's just jealousy. So congratulations, you guys. Please give it up for Nile and Mico.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.